Papa.
Tala Falava. Welcome to the Olifunga Va'a Etasi One Family. In this talanoa, I share space with Charles Tukana Singer, born in Suva, Fiji, and raised in a diaspora. Charles reminisces about his childhood growing up in Fiji using his chosen mea sina, Masi.
My name is Charles Tukana Singer. I'm Fijian, from the island of Nairai in Lomaiviti, from a small village called Natoloa. I'm Fasu, so my mom's side is from Somosomo, Taveuni. I was born and raised in Fiji, Suva, and I came over to New Zealand when I was 14 in 2011. I think for both my mom's side and my dad's side, I come from quite a chiefly bloodline. They're both Ratus and aunties on both sides.
Can you talk about your involvement in the community or what you do for Mahi?
My dad and my granddad were very into education. My granddad has a PhD in education, and so he always stressed that uni and school was very important. So I kind of went down that route, the uni route. So I graduated from the University of Auckland with a Bachelor of Science majoring in applied maths, and then I went into the corporate world. So now I'm a business insights analyst, and so all I do is just look after data, clean, and a lot of data visualization. But for community, I wouldn't say I do much because I don't think I do anything at all. Compared to back in Fiji, I had to do quite a bit because we had quite a lot of functions, because obviously like my dad and my granddad were kind of like the chiefs of the village, and so they have a lot of functions, so I was always like helping out. We had like heaps of fundraising events. There's quite a bit that we like raised, a couple $100,000. Always had to go to functions to show up because we were representing like our village and stuff like that. But since we came to New Zealand, not much, because we're like, there's only 5 of us that came over. 4 of us. My dad, my mom, my sister, and I. And then we didn't really do anything when we got here. And my dad didn't really want us to go out. Like even if we wanted to go to church and stuff, he said no. He just wanted us to like get an education, because that's why he brought us over. So he took like he actually took like a huge pay cut and a huge risk coming here, because he said, oh yeah, I'll come over just so my kids have the opportunity to go to a better uni. Auckland University is quite good, and like that was his like dream goal. So when he came here, he didn't want any distractions, so I didn't play any sports, I didn't go to any community. If I asked to go to even church, he said no, you don't need that, just keep studying every day. And yeah, I think just from then I just was kind of like got used to it, so I don't really go out, I don't really do anything much anymore. I just do my own thing.
Nice. Could you describe your chosen mea sina?
Yeah, so the one I've chosen is the Masi, as most people know, it's called Tapa, but in Fiji it's called Masi. And so that was gifted to us by my auntie when we went back last Christmas, 2022. Yeah, and then she gave it to us as kind of like a gift, and it's quite beautiful. And so I thought I'd choose that, as I don't really have any other things that I've brought over from Fiji that I hold quite close, because they're all back in the family house. But yeah, when that was gifted, I thought it was quite nice. And the Masi is quite symbolic as well, and yeah, that's why I chose that.
From your memory or growing up when you were in Fiji, where did you see Masi being used, or how do you think Masi is used?
I'd say the most often times it uses during like special ceremonies, usually weddings or marriages. I think quite similar to other Pacific cultures, the groom wears masi around them, or when the groom's family comes over to ask the fiance's family for their I would say hand in marriage, but approval. They bring like masi and like a lot of tambor as well to present it as gifts, and yeah, I think just growing up, and seeing that being used in like that kind of social settings was yeah, quite cool, and kind of knew like the importance of masi. It can be used as like a normal gift or like very important gifts, but yeah, it's quite nice.
Living in New Zealand, you're
Yeah.
no longer in Fiji, and people tend to use a lot of the mea sina or these artifacts to feel connected to things. How does masi make you feel connected to home, considering that you're like an ocean apart from Fiji?
I think just the colors and the patterns reminds me of home. Yeah, because they use a lot of brown, a specific type of brown. I don't really know the details, but it's just something where you see it and be like, oh, that looks Fijian. It's like this food when you like taste Fijian curry, you just know straight away. And then yeah, it's just something that just instantly reminds you of home. And yes, got a lot of. And my mom used to make masi as well growing up. She was telling the story of how she used to sell fish in the morning, and then at night time she used to make masi with her nana because she was raised by her nana. And on the weekends they go to the markets and sell it for money, and that was their source of income. And yeah, it's quite cool because I've been to like a couple of Fijian, like some of my Fijian mates have went over to their place. You can just see like the masi hanged up on the wall, and I think it's something similar to like the Fijian flag, like how most people hang up their flags in the living room or in their bedroom to remind them of home. A lot of Fijians hang up their masi as well because I think it's quite nice and reminds them of home as well.
Do you recall any of the motifs used in the masi, or any common motifs that's used or patterns in the masi that you can remember that it symbolizes, or any patterns that speaks to you? Like in Samoa, they tend to use like a centipede, and you'll see the centipede used.
Yeah.
Do you think Fijian has any distinctive patterns or motifs that they use on their tapa?
Yeah, definitely. Because Fijian is usually just straight lines, like the squares or circles. I don't know what the pattern is called, but it's usually like a box, and it's cut from like diagonally, and then there's 4 triangles, and then in each box there's it's shaded at the bottom and at the top, and the next box alternating from left to right. Yeah, and then that's just like a very quite common pattern in Fiji, and then it's quite common in tattoos as well. Yeah, I'm not too sure what the style is called.
Do you record masi being made predominantly by women or men, or is it a shared duty?
I think growing up, I've mainly just seen women make it. Yeah, I don't think I've really seen men making masi or tapa, but yeah, I think it was predominantly made by women.
As a person from the Moana, and what legacy would you like to leave the next generation or your future children?
To the masi or just in general?
Just in general, just something maybe from a Fijian perspective, or what do you hope for the growth of Fiji knowledge, Fiji indigenous knowledge? Like, what do you hope to leave for the next generation?
I mean, like coming to Fiji now, growing up in Fiji, coming to New Zealand, I got to like a certain point where I had to kind of like learn about Fijian history and Fijian culture. I can speak broken Fijian because I was growing up. I mainly spoke English because my dad wanted me and my siblings to learn English, so they spoke English at home, but everywhere else they spoke Fijian because like his goal was always to bring us overseas, so that we wanted us to be ready to speak English. But I think one thing I want to leave with my children I don't know about my other descendants, but directly with my children, probably knowing just a little bit of the Fijian culture and just knowing how to speak Fijian. I think that'd be quite cool. Yeah, and just keeping them connected to the Fijian culture. I don't want them to have like an identity crisis and saying like, am I actually Fijian? Because you are, even if you don't really, not like full Fijian. But yeah, probably just the language.
Do you have a Fijian proverb that you would like to share with us that speaks to you?
Yeah, I got one that that I wouldn't say speaks to me, but kind of reminds me of who I am as a person. It's what describes me. It's who I am as a person. It's called, it goes, Sivi manda na bekau gainkalu. It is best to go past the forest before you start whistling. And I think I use that a way of thinking, or that proverb in everything that I do. Like I think that's just the way I was raised, where if there's something that needs to be done, I don't complain until it's done. So it's just yeah, I guess a lot of Pacific Islanders are like that as well, where if they're given a task, they just do it. They don't really complain, ask questions, and yeah, just put their head down and just work hard. Lunaka.
Talafalava. Welcome to the Olifonga Va'etasi One Family. In this talanoa, Kiribati community leader and cultural advocate Charles Enoka shares the significance of a selected mesina, Te Mairoa Te Puro, Airoro, and the need to safeguard indigenous resources.
Yeah, my name is Charles Enoka Kiata. Yeah, I hail from the sovereign independent Republic of Kiribati in the Central Pacific. I come from Putaritari, that's the northern island in the Republic of Kiribati. I also have lineage to Tarawa, and that's where my mother come from, and also from Ocean Island, that's Banapa.
Thank you. Can you talk about your involvement in the Kiribati community?
Yes, I have been working with the Kiribati community for many years. Prior coming to New Zealand, I worked in the local government in Kiribati and also working with the communities back home in the Ministry of Home Affairs. Then when I come to New Zealand, migrated in 2002, that's when I also helped to establish the Waitakere Kiribati community and also the New Zealand Kiribati National Council. So those were the two bodies that I have belonged to and been working and have that passion working with the Kiribati community ever since until now. Also work in the radio, the National Pacific Radio Trust, Radio 531BI as the producer on the Kiribati language program.
And you're also part of the museum, am I correct?
Yes, and also part of the Auckland Museum Advisory, Pacific Advisory Committee. Just joined that committee since last year. Also in my professional role, I work for the Ministry of Justice as a lay advocate and also cultural report writer in the Kiribati language, also interpreter in the court, and been engaging with other relevant ministries and departments to do the translation work in the Kiribati language.
Could you describe your chosen mesina for this exhibition?
Yes, I have chosen the Mai Ndoroa Te Puro e Iroro. So why I chose this mesina, it is appropriate nowadays in our Kiribati settings and cultural celebrations. People wear this mesina, they wear the puro. And there is a story about it that I'd like to tell. We, the people of Ngāriaus Nation, Nasin Tungaru Kiribati, we believe that our Kiribati values and traditional knowledge are deep and rich. And those informations and knowledge are stored and shared through stories, songs, artifacts and also through dances. It is also customary ritual and protocols that determines how significant an event or occasion needs to be honored and accustomed at times. Generally, it is the tradition in Kiribati to wear a particular head calendar to symbolize significance of the day or event, and by wearing Deitara, a special head calendar that put on the head of important people or leaders or the guests. And in this ritual practice, the Kiribati blessings of the Maori, that means good health, tarai, peace, and the tapomoa, prosperity, is bestowed upon you. Now, occasionally, it is the cultural practice that men and women may wish to wear local costumes to better reflect the values or the positions or the mana in the clan that they hold or in the village. Practically, men wear the itara, the sirinimo, and also the necklace, the maendro, the puro. And there's a masina that I want to talk about, the necklace. The maendro is one of the most important cultural material that most men and women wear in any forms and shapes to acknowledge, symbolize the great value, the beauties, and the richness of the ocean. In some part of Kiribati, women who are engaged for marriage, they wear the puro, the masina, and the decorations around their neck, arms, waist, and ankles. So they wear all of those around their body, the masina I'm talking about. And then she will walk to display the costumes around the village. And she will be accompanied with a crowd of people or family members, and they will be singing and cheering along the way. This is one of the most common practice as a symbol to signify how important the marriage engagement ceremony is in the Kiribati culture. You know, in Kiribati, our people navigate, they utilize the information to maintain their well-being and correspond to the three worlds, namely the sky, the land, and the ocean. And these are the most important three worlds and environments that Kiribati people respect, they protect, and also they use as their livelihood. So wearing the mandoroa, the puro, the masina, is a cultural appropriate practice and a testament that Kiribati people have through connection, knowledge, and wisdom about the ocean and its gods. Backward.
Thank you. Wow. As a cultural advocate living in New Zealand, having these mesina with you, how does it make you feel that these practices are still continuing today?
Yeah, it is important that we maintain that practice. The puro is a cultural necklace, as I said, with very significant values that embrace our strong connection and acknowledging Marawa or Te Moana, or the ocean, as our livelihood. And it is important that we often remind ourselves that we all have a part to and a role to play in order to safeguard and keep our ocean free from pollution and contaminations. So basically, this is our story as people of Ngāti Aoos Nation or Kiribati people to maintain the survival of our identity, our traditions, and our language.
Nice. Why do you think Kiribati or Pacifica people as general feel connected to Mesina?
I think traditionally and historically, people connect with the land, they connect with the sky, they connect with the ocean, as I told you. And it is through that knowledge and through that tradition that, because that's their livelihood. Our Pacific people, they respect the Moana. And we as people of the Moana Niakiwa, we respect our ocean, and that's our livelihood.
Could you talk about how hard is it for people to get these materials to make this mesina that you have?
Yeah, nowadays, because through climate change that we experienced back in the island, and now these resources now are becoming, becoming smaller in numbers. maybe they've been overexploited, or maybe their well-being has been, interfered somehow. So it is quite hard now to find many of these precious items in the ocean, especially in Kiribati, and that's a challenge now. So the question for us is, with the number of resources that we have at the moment, how can we better maintain them, or how can we encourage to keep their numbers so maybe they can grow, or maybe so we can have more numbers in abundance in the future.
And as a person from the Moana, what legacy would you like to leave to your children or the next generation?
For me, personally, I think I would like to keep our stories. I think what's important is that we encourage our parents and our elders, our kaumatua, to tell the stories. Keep telling the stories of the ocean, of their ancestors, of their heritage. It is important that we start the conversation now, we start recording the stories now, and put them in document, so they are available for our future generation to revisit them, and they know the story about them. So yeah, the message is simple. As people of Ngāti Aos Nation, or in our phrase we call it Kiribati people, it is the survival of our story and our language that we need to come together and share, and needs to be documented. Thank you.
What's a proverb in Kiribati that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I think I need to say, Te Māori, Te Rai, Te Tapumo, and that is our common, greetings, or our common blessings. And it is culturally appropriate that we always open our day or our conversation with Te Māori, Te Rai, Te Tapumo, and also to close our journey or conversation with Te Māori, Te Rai, Te Tapumo.
Talofa lava. Welcome to the Olefunga Va'aitasi One Family. In this talanoa, Tokelauan cultural advocate Helena Fuluifanga Chenfong talks about her selected Measina, Kahua o Pa, and her life journey navigating her mixed identity in Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Cool. So Helena, could you tell me about yourself, your lineage and your ancestors?
Okay. So I am of Samoan, Tokelauan, Chinese and Danish descent. On my mother's side, I am from Maile and Ailepata, Guam Blacks for life. And on my mother's father's side, it is by Moso. My father's mother's side is Luatuanu'u, and my father's side is from Lalovaya. But I'm also from the atolls in Tokelau of Nukunonu and Hakaoho. And I have a bit of Danish in me as well, so that is my Lenkile side, by way of my mother's side. But yeah, that's me in, several sentences. My job is a youth librarian for Auckland Council at Te Manawa. Before that, I was a part of a lot of school societies in school and at university, and one that is really, really close to, that are really close to my heart. Te Namo Te Lumanaki, the Tokelauan Students Association in Wellington with Victoria University, and Pacific Climate Warriors, originally from Wellington and into Auckland. And yeah, I guess those branches of community would be, the Tokelauan community, but also with Pacific community, anything to do with climate change. That's how I kind of came into those spaces, by way of those groups. But before that, I was always just following my parents and helping out with their work stuff. My mother comes from education, and my father also comes from my father is a policeman, and so all of the community initiatives I was always not taking days off school, but always coming in and running the waters or whatever. So yeah, I like to think it's been a part of me for a long time.
Nice. Could you describe your chosen Messina? You gifted 2 Messinas. Could you describe both of them?
Oh, just so extra. So I'll start off with the smallest. My Tokelauan, both of them are Messinas from Tokelau. And I've chosen both these 2 because they represent my journey in reclaiming my Tokelauan heritage, reclaiming and really learning properly. Growing up in West Auckland, in Mānui and in Massey, I was always surrounded by my Samoan ainga, and I'm so grateful that I am really, grew up in this lens. When I moved to Wellington, I was so eager to just learn more, because down in Wellington it really is like the unofficial Tokelau capital of the world. There's more Tokes down there than back at home. So when I went to university, I joined a uni group, and then I told my nana down there, who is the Tokelauan, who has the Tokelauan heritage, and she was so excited. The minute I told her I had joined the Asosi, she went and told her cousin who lives in Lower Hutt, my Uncle Nico, that, oh my gosh, my granddaughter is someone finally is grabbing onto our Tokelauan side, because they had also grown up Samoan. And she asked him to make me a pa, or a kahioa, which is a necklace for Tokelauan women that are made out of the mother of pearl shells. And it's kind of funny, because most kahioas or bars that you will see are kind of small and black. Like, black is supposed to be like the more beautiful, but my nana, being like the big Catholic lady she is, she got the biggest, whitest bar for me, and it's actually really heavy. Yeah, and I think she was so excited when she presented it to me, and I put it on. I swear, she almost gangied. I was almost crying too. It was a really special moment. The first time I wore it, and the first time I wore it out and performed with it, and did like Tokelauan hoateles. The second Messina was actually a gift from her brother. So my nana's brother, who had also, she must have kakala to like everyone else, like, oh, look at my granddaughter, she's grabbing onto all of the resources around her. And then my uncle must have, I don't know what that conversation was, but he ended up giving me 2 pieces of clothing, and it was this hoodie and this t-shirt of Tokelau, and I think he sent me this really cute text like, oh, this is really something small, but good on you for leading the way for our ainga who have grown up Samoan. And it's not like the newest thing, but I've treasured that since I've gotten it. It's like my favorite hoodie ever, and it fits perfectly too, so it's so I need to also do a lot of physical work to make sure I can still keep wearing it as well as the the mental and emotional and cultural side to things. And so that's what I've gifted to show to this project today.
Oh, so why do you think Pacifica people are connected to these Messina?
I think it is no accident that certain items, certain customs are chosen to really hold stories and the essence of Pacific identities. For example, like the bar that I was given, yes, it is for women, but it was also used as like a fish lure. Well, that's what I've been told. Please don't quote me. I've been told it was used as a fish lure, and so not to say that women are to lure in and bring in, lure in and used as bait, but it's also kind of how I kind of see it currently, and I'm open to more interpretations, is that, women will always provide just by simply being, can always provide just by being. It is natural that things come to, our women, who bring forth life and the sustenance to provide and sustain that life. And that's no mistake, that is no accident at all. There's so many other things that we tie ourselves to, because we kind of weave those stories and our identities into those items or concepts or language, for example. Even though my hoodie is like, it's like, it's just a hoodie, it's got like all this cat hair and lint on it, and it's not the newest hoodie at all, but it's like a personal, almost modern heirloom. I don't know who I'll give it to. I don't even because currently I don't let anyone touch it. But I guess the person who I will give it to is like maybe my child, or it would be really special to me, and I'll tell them like, oh, this is how I got this, so you better look after it. But yeah, mesinas they really are labors of love. Like, it took a lot of hands. Like, items come through lots of hands, my uncle fashioning this bar, my nana gifting it to me me as the current like holder and wearer of it, and very soon I imagine I'll have to go back and ask my uncle to, can you just, obviously say hello, but ask him to repolish it because I've touched it and used it so much. And how people interact with it as well. Like when I wear it around in public, some people have come up to me and like, oi, maloni, and then they start talking to me in Tokelauan, and just like that, just by being, you've already established this connection. Like, this person literally singled me out and noticed that, she's a Tokelauan girl. I'll go to her and say hello and ask her who her family was. And yeah, it is a way of connecting us, even, on the street, for example. And there are many other places to connect as well, so yeah.
Wow, that's all right. As a person of the Moana, or a Tokelauan, Samoan, or someone of mixed heritage, what legacy would you like to leave your children or the next generation?
I would really like to be a part of this movement, or just the idea that it's okay to be born somewhere else, and to be known, hopefully by my grandkids, etc., and further, like, oh yeah, Grandma Helena was very, like, she wasn't born like this, but once she found something, she ran with it and committed to it. And I hope that I know I'm not the first, and it's not like a extraordinary like story, because it's a reality shared by so many of our diasporic communities. But I hope that it is one that kind of just encourages, someone who is not fully confident yet to kind of step out and claim, I am also Tokelauan, or I'm Samoan as well, but I didn't grow up with it. And kind of just be comfortable in knowing that there's always a space for you in the learning and in the journey, and in the kitchen. Sometimes the kitchen is the best place to learn, and just watching from afar. It doesn't always look the same. Like going to classes and committing to, like, you know, classes outside of work, life, and school, outside of your house is really, really hard. But there are many ways to learn, and yeah, no way is too unorthodox, and no way is not the right. There is no right way. Like I said, like the kitchen is like amazing. Not because I'm a girl, but because that's where it's just flooded by all of the culture, like the back house, the behind the curtains of, you know, your culture and your identity. That's where like the real stuff happens. Well, some of the real stuff happens, but you can also find that in different other spaces as well. Yeah, so just do you, and be confident, and just go for it, and you'll find people along the way to help you as well.
Nice. Another question that's kind of come to mind now that you've talked about what you've just said, I think there's some sort of pressure for people of mixed heritage to either learn one or find a balance to learn both, so that we feel they're neglecting one culture and the other. How have you sort of navigated that space with someone of mixed heritage?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, I remember growing up, like as a young girl, I was always told like, oh, you're so plastic. Like you're not fully, you know, this whole blood quantum. It's like, well, first of all, it's not my fault that I don't have all of this stuff. You know, I didn't have it growing up. Not everyone's home life is the same. But also, like, that whole concept of you know, purity that was made by someone else, like white people, just so that was made. It's not like it wasn't made within our community, but it was imposed on us by others. But I guess the pressure around being mixed and my journey and reflection. Just coming back to the question. No, it's been. I grew up Samoan. I think, to be honest and to be fair, when I moved to Wellington, I was so excited to kind of not wash myself of Samoa, but wash myself of all of that disgusting, you know, rhetoric around, oh, you're never going to be enough. Like, it was pretty painful, because I never felt as embraced by so many Tokelauans, so many Samoans, as I had been embraced by the Tokes in Wellington. It kind of, you know, maybe I'll put it down to perspective around there's a lot less there's way less of us, and so, you know, when you're backed into a corner, it kind of makes you fight more and more survival mode. And so I'll also give, you know, the Samoans around, because there's so many of us, it does seem like, oh yeah, there should be heaps of resources, heaps of people you can ask. And so for a while I was really happy to just be something other than Samoan, and to be, you know, fully have all the resources in one place, just within the reach of my fingertips. Moving away from Wellington and kind of growing up a little bit more as well, realized actually you can't think like that, like, oh yeah, I'm going to just stay Tokelau 100%, like nukunori, like because, like, oh yeah, that's the place that loves me. But sometimes you have to put in the work, and you have to compartmentalize, like, the negatives and the positives. Like, I really did think that, oh yeah, all Samoans think like this. There's a purity, like, there's an imbalance, like complex, that's the word. But actually, like everyone, I kind of started, now that I'm a little bit older, I've kind of grown up to know that actually people only think like that because of what happened to them. And not to say like, oh, trauma, but yeah, trauma. Just around, you know, there's a reason why people are so passionate and so like hardcore. It's because probably someone was hardcore on them, pushing this message of survival, and survival looks different, and retention, language retention looks different across everything. And so I've realized, like, well, why not? Like, still on this journey of reclaiming, actually I'm not going to say that, still on the journey of learning, and always just moving forward, writing things down, asking whoever's kind of near. I kind of get, I feel like sometimes people get annoyed when I ask all these things, so I want to do them. when I sense people are like, it's in this, it's in that, or read, you should do this, you should do this. Like, you can only ask so much and rely so much on handouts, yet you've also got to do the work as well. And so I'm in that stage of, are you going to do it or not?
Nice, fair enough. Thank you. And then the last one is there a proverb in Tokelauan or someone that speaks to you that you want to share with us?
But it was something that's always stuck with me, is my former Samoan lecturer, Dr. Sadat from Wellington University. Wellington University of Victoria. But he explained and he broke down the term of alofa, the Samoan term alofa. I guess you could kind of also say, Tokelauan as well, because the languages are very, very similar. And so something he spoke actually at a climate rally that we held from Pacific Climate Warriors was, you can split alofa into two, alo and fa. Alo referring to the both, the a pillar, and then fa meaning four. And so he said, and so you can look at it like alofa, the pillars, 4 pillars, and what I think, and he said this way more graciously and amazingly, and he said, and what do you need to hold up a house? And it's 4 pillars to hold up the 4 corners of love. And so by this, he said, through this interpretation, love is the thing that holds things together and holds groups. You know, what is a house? It's your family, your organization, your even like the way of being, like yourself as a vessel, whether it's of God or of service, tautua, and respect. Everything must be done with love. And that is what I'll leave you with.
Talofa lava. Welcome to the Olifunga Va'aitasi One Family. In this talanoa, Tuvaluan cultural leader Janessa Borham shares the significance of the Measina Fa'afetu.
My name is Janessa. I am 27. I was born here in New Zealand, but I grew up in Fiji and Tuvalu, so that's Fiji is where I grew up, but I've been staying in the islands back in Tuvalu until I was 5, and then I moved to Fiji. So my parents are both from Tuvalu. My mom's from Funafuti, which is the capital of Tuvalu, and my dad is from Nui. So Nui have they speak a different language, so they speak more Kiribati. Yeah, so they have a total different language than most of the islands in Tuvalu, and yeah.
Awesome. And can you describe the Mersina that you've chosen to display in the exhibition?
Yeah, so the Mersina that I chose is called a whawhitu. So it's basically a necklace made out of seashells, and it's in the shape of a star. So the star is represents the northern star, from where I gathered most of the information from. But yeah, so that's basically it's one of the tapu, or an object that's tapu to my mom's island, and yeah.
Cool. Could you tell me the significance of the whawhitu?
Yes, so the whawhitu is, like I said, it's made out of the seashells, and the significance of the whawhitu is it's mostly used for girls that are dancing, and it's only used when there's important people that comes into the island, and so that's the only time you'd see girls wearing whawhitu, because it's I don't know, I think it's the way it's made, because it's not made like other necklaces, like the other Tuvalu necklaces. This one is sort of they go out, and it's particularly a significant seashell that they collect, and they polish it, and then they put them together to shape the star.
This is particular to your mum's village. Is this taonga or Mersina also only found, the craft of it's only found in
my mom's, in Funafuti, where my mom's from, so only the ladies from Funafuti knows how to make the whawhitu. So unless they teach other women from other islands how to do it, but it's mostly the woman from my mom's island that knows the craft of the whawhitu.
Can you talk about your involvement in the community? I know you do a lot of Tuvaluan, as a Tuvalu representative and cultural leader.
Yes.
Could you just talk about what you do for the Tuvaluan community?
So I am partnering with, there's another Tuvaluan fashion designer. His name is Talosia. So each year we try and do a Tuvaluan fashion week, and so that's usually around December, and we try and get other Tuvaluan fashion designers, because we know there's a lot of Tuvaluan ladies that sew, but they're just too scared to put their stuff out there. And so what me and Talosia are trying to do, we try to get them to do a little Tuvalu fashion week, and so for them to come and showcase what their talents and skills and stuff like that. Yeah.
Nice. And you're performing for Pacifica this year?
Yeah, I'm performing for Pacifica this year. Yeah.
Cool. And what would could you give us a teaser what you would be expecting at the Pacifica for the Tuvaluan stage?
Mostly dancing, but there'll be Tuvaluan food and Tuvaluan objects that we sell to. So it'll be necklaces and lei, but we call it fol. But yeah, so all Tuvaluan stuff.
Yes. And could you tell me what color of describe the color of the whawhitu?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So the whawhitu, it's not white, but it's off-white cream kind of color.
Cheese.
Yeah, and it's it comes in different shapes, because there's the shell. It comes. They have small, and so the bit where you hang around the neck, that's mostly small, the small versions of the big shells.
Is this Mersina still made today? Is this craft still evident today?
I like to say yes, but most of the women that know how to, like, that knew how to, they all like either they migrated to like other countries like here or Australia or wherever in the country, or they like passed away, and so like they don't pass down the craft as often as I like want to, because I wished I knew how to do it, but yeah, I don't think there's that many people from my mom's like village that knows how to do it anymore.
Oh, that's quite common.
Yeah.
So, do you find that coming to New Zealand and sort of being raised in the diaspora that people are using sort of replicas now?
Yes.
Is that the
Yeah.
case?
Yeah. I actually, there was one. I went into like a $2 shop in out west, and I saw like a replica, like, and it was so like, it was so good. Like it was literally
Almost
like,
identical.
oh yeah. So yeah, I feel like there a lot of people are like using that from like, the women in Tuvalu that stays here. They're using those ones instead of like the.
What do you think are the sort of the common new resources being used now?
So it's more the ribbons, or like, so we use the ribbons from the like $2 shops for that, because those are made out of like the tititao is made out of flax, and so now I see more people using just ribbons, like colored ribbons for tititao instead of like the flax. So yeah, that's one of them.
Do you think, is it because of climate change and the rise of seawater that it's getting more difficult to source the materials to make?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, totally. The whawhetu, I'm not, because I haven't been to like the islands in like so long, and so I'm not sure about I know the whawhetu, they don't make that many of them, and I'm sure it's because of the climate change. Yeah, I don't.
And
but
is it harder to source? Is it more deep?
it's yeah,
to get, or
yeah.
is it
So
really fine?
when no, it's not on shore. So when it's low tide, so the women have to like walk a distance to collect the seashells, because it's not from like
And on a duration period of how they create the whawhetu, how long do you think it takes for them to put it together?
days. Yeah, so it's not like not hours, and so they go collect it and they bring it back, and from what I remember, they put it in like a bucket of water, I think, to wash out like the sands or like the smell of the sea, and so they leave it in there for like I think a day or two, and so but they keep swapping the water out, and so after that they bring it out and they polish it, and then they thing it into like little strings, and
So is it like they tying it, or
They-
like knitting and sewing?
yeah, oh my gosh, they knit it, they like sew it and like to make the star. Yeah.
Nice. Can you recall like or estimate how many shells they need just to make one whawhetu?
A lot. So it's, I think one whawhetu, like just for the shape of the star, I think you need at least 40, yeah, from what like 35 to 40 of seashells. And then for the bit where you just hang it on the neck, what do you call that? Oh my god.
Or like just the circular?
The circular
Yeah.
thing, I think you need, depends on how low you want the whawhetu to be. Probably like 20 to 25. Yeah.
And could you talk about what the star symbolizes? Is that got to do like cosmology or like the heavens, or what did the star
It
represent?
symbolizes like the star when, from what I gather, I think it's the star when Jesus was born. So that symbolizes that, yeah.
Also, it's got like a religious
Yeah,
connection.
yeah.
Oh, interesting. And do you know when Christianity reached Tuvalu?
18 something, 1800s.
Well, cool, because in Samoa, I think it was 1835, I think.
It's,
Kind of after us.
yeah,
It
it's,
came to us first.
yeah, it came to you guys first and then us.
Yeah, okay, cool. I see. Nice. And how does the Whawhitu make you feel as an Indigenous person living in New Zealand?
Proud. Oh my god, I love it when, especially when my mom's side, when we do like events for my mom's side where she comes from, and we get to wear it. It makes you feel like you're part of the community, and it makes you feel like you're home as well. Like wearing it, and we're proud.
Oh, nice. How do you in your community, or like in your community, how are you guys ensuring that you're keeping sort of these craft and practices alive?
So we actually have, I'm not sure if they still do it, but before COVID, we used to have like every Thursday we have like arts and crafts day for the elderly and like for the young children too, so they could learn how we make like titi towels and whawhitus and tuvalu necklaces and leis. So we try and maintain that, and we try and teach our the younger generations as well.
Nice. And why do you think people like yourself or the rest of the Tuvalu community in the diaspora feel connected to things like Whawhitu or other medicine? Why do you think that's the case?
I think for me, because the Whawhitu is really close to me, because I feel like it's the only thing that represents my mom's side of from where she's from. So that to me, it makes me feel like I'm closer to Tuvalu. And yeah.
That's good to know. Almost there to the end. So
It's alright.
as a person from the Moana, that's good to know that you were born in Fiji and raised in Tuvalu.
I was born here, but I was raised in Fiji. Yeah.
Oh, so, and you've been back and forth in Tuvalu as well?
Yeah.
Oh. So as someone who's raised in New Zealand, what legacy or that you would like to leave for your children or the next generation?
For them to speak the language and to understand the values and morals of Tuvalu and the culture as well. Culture and language is really important to me, and the values. And so that's what I want to leave behind for, I don't know, just the younger generations in general.
What's a proverb from Tuvalu that you want to share and like sort of leave with us?
Okay, I actually got one. Alofa ki tō tua koi.
Could you say that one more time?
Alofa ki tō tua koi. So in translation, that love your neighbor. Yeah.
Oh, nice. And why does this proverb speak to you?
It's what my parents taught us from when we were younger. It's to always love your neighbor. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Well, thank you. I know that concludes our talanoa today. Is there anything that you want to add on to what our Whawhitu is that I may not have asked you?
No, I think we covered it all.
Oh, awesome. Okay, thank you. And that concludes our talanoa. Tala Falava. Welcome to the Olifonga Vaetasi One Family. In this talanoa, community and cultural leader for the Kiribati community in Aotearoa, New Zealand, Lydia Theatau, describes and talks about the cultural importance of the mea tina i te rā.
Thank you. My name is Lydia Theatau from Kiribati. My islands in Kiribati are Apemeana from my father and Mayana from my mother. But I grew up mainly on the main island where the government is the capital of Kiribati, which is Tarawa. And I had my primary days on Tarawa and my secondary days on Apeyang and North Tarawa, or Paporio Tarawa Ieta.
Awesome. Can you talk to me about your involvement in the Kiribati community or what you do for work?
Thank you. When I first arrived in New Zealand in 2006, it was in Wellington. at that time. And straight away, I got involved in the Kiribati Wellington community. Spent 4 years in Wellington with my family, and I held some roles in the executive part of the community. Role in there was my a cultural mentor, a treasurer, and a secretary. And then I moved to Auckland. But before I moved to Auckland, I did my study for my Bachelor of Social Work with Whitireia Community Polytechnic in Porirua, and then moved to Auckland and started work here as a community social worker. And at the same time, I got involved with the Kiribati community in Auckland, with a group or a community called Auckland Kiribati Society Incorporated. And that's from 2010 until now. And I've held various roles in that community as well, being the chairman, project coordinator, secretary, and at the same time I'm a secretary for the New Zealand Kiribati National Council, where we work with different communities all over New Zealand that are Kiribati communities. Yeah, and now I'm working at MIT as one of the lecturers in the School of Social Work. I'm still busy with my Kiribati community.
Nice, thank you, Lydia. Could you describe your chosen Measina in front of us?
Yes, I chose, Kiribati has many taonga or something that's meaningful to us and to the family and to the way of life. But I chose Teitera, which is a flower head wreath or garland, as my taonga for this purpose. The main reason for falling in love with this Itera was because of its beauty, the meaning behind it, and how it is known in the whole of Kiribati. It's not just belong to any islands in Kiribati or families, but once we present this Itera or Teitera, everyone knows it. And it is about beauty, it is about acknowledging a special person or people on certain occasions or events. And it is about conflict resolution as well, making peace between people, between individuals. When you put this Itera on someone, it melts the heart of that person because of its significance and the meaning behind it from our ancestors. Yes, and that's why I chose this. And partly too because I connected myself when doing my study in New Zealand with the Kakala model, which is a special lay or something for the Tongans. And the way it was explained in that model, the Kakala model that we used in social work or in research, it's a special way of weaving the flowers together and the leaves for the noble in Tonga. So it has a similarity to how I view my flower head wreath Teitera in Kiribati.
Nice. Could you maybe talk about what were some of the natural materials that was used to make the Teitera before it kind of moved to sort of the plastic nylon?
Yeah, so the flowers they're very special flowers that we can't find in New Zealand, or maybe we have to search more in the forest or in the bush. But these flowers can be found easily in Kiribati along the coast. And it's the Kianginimakin, which is this green part. When you look at the Teitera theory, it looks like similar to the tear before it opens up. That's theory or Temel. Those are the original. Some of the red flowers and the yellow flowers are only available in Kiribati. And maybe that's how we use these flowers to make this special Teitera, because those are the only flowers in Kiribati. But now that we are in New Zealand, we still keep the sequence, we still keep how it looks, but we use plastics and those things. But when you go back to Kiribati, it is more of the natural flowers that is used.
Nice. And how long would this Teitera stay on using the natural resources? How long does it last for?
You know, flowers, they won't last long, eh? But that can be a day or two. And the other thing that I forgot to mention is when you finish weaving it together, you put coconut oil on it to keep it fresh and maybe to last long. And in the past or still now, when someone is gifted Teitera on their heads, they can't take it off until the function is finished. Because that shows respect to reciprocal, right? Because the people respect you, that's why they welcome you, honor you with their Itera. Then you use it, put it on your head until you walk away from that event or function. Normally in the past, people or the older ladies like us will follow the guest or the special person on that same day, asking to wear that because it's something special. So they will ask you if they could, or they can, ma'am, like, can I use the Teitera now that the function is over? It has a meaning behind that too, that we will share that same blessing.
Nice. You'll see that in the Pacific, a lot of the Measina always roll around the head, because, like, for someone, they say it's your wisdom, it's how you think, which is important. Is it similar for Kiribati? Like, do you guys? There's a reason why Teitera is so important, that it stays within the head.
Yes. It is very important that you put it on the head, not around the shoulder. I mean the neck, because the head is taboo, and everything is up there. That's what makes a person powerful, knowledgeable, able to live, strong. So it all contributes to where you put that thing.
Yes. Another question is, why do you think people are connected to these objects like these Measina? Why do you think Kiribati or any Pacific people are connected to these material things?
Yeah. To me, personally, because we might have different views and opinions on our own things, but to me, with this Itera, this is who we are. This is what we practiced from our young ages. And I'll tell you, Pamata, not everyone in Kiribati can weave this special headdress, Teitera. It's only those that have the skill. I can't do the weaving as well. I don't know if there's one from my family, siblings, sisters that can weave it. It's so special, and those who are the weavers are known in the village. And that's why I use this in my research, or developed it as a research methodology, because of if you want to recruit your participants, you have to choose those people, not just anyone that can connect or answer, give you answers to what you are studying or looking for, the answers. And it's the same with this Itera. You can't just ask someone to visit. You have to walk around and find someone, and you have to ask them properly so they can weave them. Weave the Itera.
Nice. As we're almost coming to an end, as a person of the Moana, or from Kiribati, what legacy would you like to leave your children or the next generation?
Yes. With me, looking at, I'm a grandmother now. I have 3 grandchildren and one is on the way very soon. I'd like them to know who they are, maintain their culture, the good ones, because we always have the nice ones and the not so nice. But living in a new home, in a new country where we share our cultures with other Pacific people that migrated to New Zealand, it is good to know where you stand. Even though we share the same way of lifestyles in New Zealand, the language that connects us is English and Maori. But I will ask my children to maintain the importance of the culture. Anything that they've experienced when I was with them, until when it's time for them to look after their families, not to move away from who they are as Kiribati. Their identity, their heritage is important as part of their life in a new country.
Wow, thank you. And the last one is there a Kiribati proverb that you would like to share with us?
Yes, thank you. There's so many that I like, but I'll share this with you. Tawanananum. And it's just 2 or 3 words. It means that do it with all your heart. Like me, when you ask me to be part of this, I have to do it properly because it represents who I am and my Kiribati people. So always do it nicely, do it gracefully, and it connects with how we migrated to New Zealand or left our country, our families down there. We decided to move to New Zealand. We have to be serious of coming to New Zealand. Why? Because we told our families, it's for good education for my children, good health care for them and for me, and and for the future generations. So move to New Zealand. Do it right. Carry on the purpose of, or the reason why you move.
Thank you for listening. Talofa lava. Welcome to the Olifunga Wā Etasi, One Family. In this talanoa, Samoan cultural leader Baumata Toleafoa talks about his chosen mea sina, the tuinga. So talofa, my name is Baumata Diaz Toleafoa. I am Samoan. I was born in New Zealand. Specifically, I was born in Hastings and raised in Mangere, South Auckland. My mother comes from the village of Salelesi and my father comes from the village of Satapuala in Upolu, Samoa.
Could you describe your chosen mea sina?
The mea sina that I have chosen for Olifunga Wā exhibition is called a lavi. A lavi is part of a holistic mea sina called the tuinga in Samoa, and I've chosen a section of that mea sina to show for the exhibition.
Can you talk about the reason you selected this mea sina?
I've selected the lavi specifically because of its intricate and elaborate display. The lavi is part of the tuinga, so the tuinga has about 5 different sections to it, which is woven and sewn into the head of the wearer, who is typically of a high chief status or a descendant of a high chief. So the lavi is the section that is the most adorned, so it has the mother of pearl shell and a few other shells. Over time, they change from being elaborated with the mother of pearl shell to much more readily accessible materials like plastic nylon or shells that you often find in a lot of the Chinese stores. I chose this because, again, of its elaborate and sort of sophisticated design, and because it's eye-catching, and because of its height. It almost makes me feel connected to the heavens. I read on one of a thesis that was written by Elisiva Siilata, I believe, and she talked about the lavi being the connector between the wearer, which is the human, and to the cosmos and the earth. So the lavi actions or projects this motion of piercing the heavens, in which the wearer harnesses the power from the heavens. Second to that, I chose this mesina because it's woven into the tuinga, which is part of a single mesina known in Samoa. I wanted to sort of highlight how intricate and how elaborate certain designs Samoan people go through that are not often recognized distinctively. So by taking that section out of the tuinga and showcasing it, sort of highlights sophisticated the Samoan worldview are and how they come to utilize natural resources to really elevate the wearer of high status.
Can you talk about how important this mesina is for Indigenous people?
As I mentioned before, I think because of one of the readings that I did on the scholars who did a master's, that emotions, the idea of being pierced by the heavens or piercing the heavens, so to harness that mana from Tangaloa. So this is prior to Christianity. Another view or another perspective is that the lavi being placed on the head as the tuinga that it's part of really highlights how important the head is in Indigenous worldview. In many other cultures, the head cannot be touched by anyone, especially for important people. So to have mesina that is quite common in the Pacific as head garlands or head wreaths or ceremonial headwear makes the lavi elevate how important the head, the sacred space where people's thoughts, discernment, thinking, where people's views are stored. So the lavi sort of highlights how important the Indigenous worldview regarding the head.
How does this mesina make you feel as an Indigenous person living outside of Samoa?
I think the main thing is connection, and it's connection to land, connection to the ocean, connection to culture. The lavi sort of gives that tangible or physical element to see how much of the connection that we still feel even though we are living here in the diaspora. Having this lavi reminds me of how much of the ocean that my people belong to, how much they've resorted to natural resources to make these mesina. And it reminds me of the Indigenous worldview sort of prior to Christianity. It's really interesting reading on things before Christianity and how people came to think about how to harness mana and power that is almost equivalent to what we call today as sort of spirituality or the Holy Spirit. So seeing those connections between Indigenous religion, Christianity, and sort of that connection to land, to ocean, to the skies, to nature, and in terms of the resources used to make these mesina is something that sort of empowers me. So it's that connection back to my homeland.
Why do you think Pasifika people are connected to Messina? What makes it so special?
I think it's just the, again, I think it's the connection. I think it's the celebration of indigenous knowledge. I think having something tangible that's passed down through generations and generations sort of heightens how important they are. When something's passed down by generation, the value and the mana that it holds increases over time. And so when people see these heirlooms, see these Messina, they are reminded of those people. They are reminded of a village, of a knowledge that only these can translate. So I think like the lave, for instance, or like reminds me of my grandfather who was a carpenter and who specialized in cultural wear. And so every time I make or see a lave, I'm reminded of his creative cultural practice that I only learned about later through the years.
As a person from the Moana, what legacy would you like to leave to your children or next generation?
I think personally it's to realize how empowering indigenous knowledge is, and that indigenous knowledge is almost found in everything, and most important is at home. I think home is where the knowledge comes from, and I hope the next generation know how valuable their home education is, that they don't have to look far or attend high institutions or very elaborate secondary schools to sort of attain some type of knowledge. The knowledge comes from home, and that's where a lot of the teachings, a lot of the values are embedded into our heads. So I hope moving forward, or I hope looking through the next generation, that they value the indigenous knowledge that is passed through their parents, that they learn through homes, so things like the kitchen, running around doing some chores, just serving our elders, our wider family. Those little aspects are one of the most strongest form of education a lot of indigenous people receive, but are often overlooked or underappreciated.
What is a proverb that speaks to you?
I think there are actually many proverbs that speak to me, but I think one that comes to mind quite often, and it's used so loosely these days, is Ole ala I le pule o le tautua, which means the pathway through leadership is through service. And as self-explanatory as it is, I think it really encapsulates a lot of the Samoan review and the Samoan values of always serving, always being humble, humility. It has alofa and respect in, which is love and respect, or whāloalo. And encapsulated in service are all those values that are important to Samoan people. And so in order to hold any sort of authority or have any commands upon other people or having any leadership roles, the most important thing is service. And we cannot reach a certain point of authority if we have not served enough through service. That's where a lot of the education comes from. So imagine like having sort of any lack of service, which mean leadership would also be lacking if you ever kind of consider holding those sort of positions. So that proverb speaks to me in a way that I must always serve, as that's where the form of education comes from, and that way leadership naturally will be displayed in my form of service.